And welcome back to Astro Self Care Sunday. It is Kenya, and we're back. We're back. And y'all, if you are new here, welcome to this space. If you are new here, would you just hit the subscribe because we are getting so close to our thousand. Y'all are really listening to me whine and sound pitiful about needing to hit 1,000 because the last time I checked, we were only about 12 subscribers away. So hopefully, I was gonna put on these glasses. They're cute, but can't really see as well as I want. Last time I checked, we were just 12 subscribers away. So I am hoping that actually by the time you actually see this, because I pre-record this, maybe we're just 10 or 5 or 1. I don't know. But if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Welcome. Those of you who are subscribers, you tune in each week. Thank you so much. I'm getting really wonderful comments and feedback and messages that you're enjoying learning more about astrology and how to use it and what it really means. And that is, situate this, that is really my goal. That's the whole point of all of this is how can we learn something new about it? And more than anything, how can we use it for the care of ourselves? How do we use it to develop and to grow? And so thank you for tuning in. And again, make sure you like this video. Make sure you share this video. That's how we are getting more people tuning in. Once we hit that 1,000, that definitely helps the algorithm out. It monetizes, it does a lot of stuff. And so while I am giving this to you for free, I would love for you to like, share, comment, and definitely subscribe. If what I'm saying is really resonating and you're wanting to get an astrology guidance reading, and I do call them guidance reading because as you see, I'm not here just to spit out a bunch of, details, but to really guide you. Make sure you check out the description and you can see where you can email or where if you'd like to just book a free discovery call, where if you're still a bit on the fence and you want just a little bit more information before you book a reading, we can do that. Also, if you just know, I just want to book that reading, all that information is in the description. So thank you. So I'm excited. This topic today, self-reliance versus compromise. Exploring astrology, north and south nodes through the houses. Yes. So I really wanted to talk about north and south nodes, and I was excited to get some feedback to say, yes, please, can you do that? Also, there was some feedback. Can you talk about past lives? And I'm like, because north and south node actually deals a lot with current lifetime and previous lifetime. So this is going to be a fun series. The way we're going to work this series is each week when I come on here, I will go through the north and south nodes through the houses. And so because the north node, okay, sits directly when you're looking at your birth chart, it's a placement, it's a node of the moon. It is not a planet per se, but it's super, super important. They're always right across from each other, no matter what. Okay. So if your north node is in the first house, your south node is always going to be in the seventh house. If your north node is in the seventh house, your south node is always going to be in the first. So they always sit in direct houses across from each other. Okay. So if your north node is in the second house, then your south node is always going to be in the eighth house, and so forth. So the way we're going to do this series is each Sunday for the next 6 weeks. Today we're going to talk about first and the seventh house, because if the north node is in the first house, the south node has to be in the seventh house. And then I'll just flip flop and tell the reverse. If the north node is in the seventh, and then that means the south node in the first. So if you're like, what are you talking about? This is confusing. You're already confusing me. Don't worry. Just breathe. Breathe. It's going to be all right. It's going to make complete sense in a moment. If you want to be looking at your birth chart while we talk and you're like, where do I go? My recommendations, I have 3 places that I usually tell people to go to pull their charts because I think that they do a good job. Um, I would say if you're really new to this, and you really, I just feel that Channing Nicholas has a very clean chart and it is easy to follow and understand. So if you go to chart.channingnicholas.com, I'm not endorsing and all the things, I'm not a special sponsor, so I'm just gifting that. But check that out. Channy, figure it out. Google, you'll figure out how to spell it and all that. She's a very popular modern astrologer who I really love. Or you can go just to astro.com. That's simple enough. Or you can grab the app Time Passages. And I think if you're going to do time passages, I think those of you who are a little bit more familiar with astrology have looked at your chart before, kind of understand a lot of your placements. Time passages, I think, is really ideal for you because it goes the next level, I think, in terms of really getting in there and providing some pretty significant explanations of placements. But I would say if you're just new to astrology, time passages might be a little too much, Okay. So you want to find out, I think a lot of times, some apps may not tell you where the south node is. It's just assumed. So you'll always see the north node on a birth chart. Sometimes you will see a south, sometimes you won't. Just always know the south node is the same degree at the exact opposite house. So right across the street, okay, directly. So it's either first, seventh, second, eighth, third, ninth, fourth, 10th, fifth, 11th, 6th, 12th. Those cross from each other. Okay. So today we're focusing on the first and the seventh houses, north and south nodes. So the reason I titled this Self-Reliance versus Compromise, because that's what's happening. Okay. And so before I talk about those placements and how the north and the south node exist in the north, and I mean, in the first and the seventh house, I just want to talk, what is it? What is a north node? What is a south node? What? So I have some notes. Y'all know I try to keep notes. And for those of you who are new here, I really do keep this at 30 minutes or less. I've never talked about this topic, so I hope I can still stay. I'm going to try. But just to kind of give you, I always tell people, listen, the north node is the whole point. It's the whole point to me. It is the whole point of your chart. It is the whole reason your soul said, come on back and do this journey. It's extremely significant and important. Okay. And I'll give more detail in a moment. Whereas the south node is, we've already mastered this and we're going to bring it a little bit into this lifetime, but we're going to teach you how to start letting this go. Because you've already mastered this in previous lifetimes. And as opposed to you just taking what you already know, we're going to give you new experiences so you can grow, so you can expand. But we also don't want you to feel completely foreign in this land, completely. So, South Node is in the subconscious. It's what we're comfortable with. It's where we have mastered and done very well. And we lean heavily in our South Node energy. Really, the first 30, 40 years, okay, of life. Definitely first 20 to 30. Once we start hitting 30s, 40s, and we're starting to move up and getting closer to these returns and the Chiron returns and these different healing spaces, then that's when we start experiencing more of the North Node. And so just to kind of read this to you, so that it's real specific for you. North Node and South Node represent points of significant karmic and spiritual importance. Okay, so it's important that we think of karmic and spiritual. So a lot of times this is more subconscious energy. This is not, I mean, the more you're doing work on yourself and self-discovery and reflection, the more you're going to really understand your North and South Node very well. But that's why it takes longer. That's why it takes more life experience. That's why it's not something that, when you're 20, you're absolutely clear on the North Node. You're more in your South Node energy. So the North Node, it basically indicates the direction that you're supposed to grow and develop in this lifetime. Now, you will see it sometimes is referred to as the soul's purpose or the soul's calling or what the soul is really wanting to experience or achieve. It is. I would say all of those things are yes. But what I want you to really understand, it's where it's trying to push you to grow and to develop in this lifetime. And so it's attempting to point you to new experiences and qualities that it actually wants you to embrace. But a lot of times, what can happen is wherever our North Node is, we'll be like, oh, yeah, no, I'm not. No, not really. Because we're not, that's a clear sign that we've got work to do. Okay. And that it's attempting to push us into the unfamiliar so that we will embrace it because that's where we're going to get our growth in this lifetime. Okay. Opposite of that, the South Node, it represents the past lives, it represents the past traits, the skills, the past behaviors that we're really, really comfortable with. But we've got to move beyond if we're going to grow. So, a lot of times, what will happen when I'm working with people, I'm really, like I said, I'm heavily looking at North Node placement, South Node placement, Chiron, Saturn, Pluto, because I do healing work. And those are, I mean, every planet is moving toward healing, but those are particularly critical in the healing. And so I find that a lot of people, when they are sitting mostly in their South Node energy, it's a really good way for me to help them see, yes, you affirm you in that that is the current reality, but do understand if you're looking for why am I here, if you're getting frustrated, if you're having lots of barriers, lots of blocks, why does this keep happening? A lot of times it's because it's trying to get you to let go of that familiar so that you'll move toward the unfamiliar to get your growth. Okay. So I hope that helps you really kind of understand in general North Node versus South Node and why I think it's so, so important. And a lot of times I don't know how much we talk about it in these common main streets around astrology. I think we spend a lot of time talking about the top three and what you're rising, what your sun, which is important, but and no, but it's important. They're all important. They're all working together. It's kind of like saying the human body, you know, the ear is there, but no, the ear is important, right? It might be a smaller part, but I need to be able to hear. And there's a reason why it's in this part of my body and all the things. So everything has its placement. But I do think when you start really, if you really want to understand more about yourself and what this lifetime and what soul and what the divine in you is attempting to experience and why you may be going through the ish you go through, why you may experience the type of people you do, why you land in jobs and careers the way you do, why people walk in and out of your life the way they do, why you live where you do. You really want to learn more about the North and South Node because it will be very telling. And depending on what age you're in, depending on your development, as you grow older, it really clicks in. You really start seeing it because you just have so many more experiences. So, what we're focusing on today is the first and the seventh houses. Okay. First and the seventh. So if you can remember, go back to the houses series, astrology through the houses. We just finished that. If you're new here, go to my Astro Self-Care Sunday playlist and you can watch every single house I talk about. Every single house. Yes, every single one, so that you have reference to better understand what those houses are about. But just as a reminder, that first house, remember, is the I am. Okay, it's ruled by Aries and Mars, and it's very about our independence and about our self assertion and our self empowerment, all the things, right? So, if the North Node is in the first house, what you think you trying to learn in this lifetime? Okay. We already have our rising always in the first house. So the first house becomes this extremely dynamic place already. Okay. But if we also have our North Node there, then it's also really attempting to push us, our life's journey A big part of this lifetime, a big part of this growth is getting us to develop this strong sense of self. It's really pushing us to have a very clear personal identity and independence. And so the way this shows up in real life is most people who have their north node in the first house, this is where their deficit is. Okay? Their challenge usually is that they are possibly over reliant on relationships as well as the approval of others because their south node is sitting over there in the seventh house of relationships. Okay. And so, again, remember, wherever our north node is, the soul is working toward it. It's working toward personal identity. It's working toward a sense of independence. It's working toward a really strong sense of self. And so the challenge is that it's learning how to move away from over relying on others. And so that growth lesson that's happening if your north node is in the first house, it's really emphasizing self discovery and self reliance. Okay, that's the emphasis if that north node is sitting in the first house. Now, you may have in that first house, for me, I'll just, I have Cancer in the first house. Okay. Now, ironically, I have the south node there, and I'm going to explain that in just a moment. But because I have Cancer, I have Cancer there in that first house. I'm a Cancer rising. Okay. Then if I have the north node there, the way in which I'm going to do this growth, because remember, the zodiac sign is merely talking about the personality of the house, the personality of how you're going to do it. Okay. The way, the style in which. So having Cancer there is water, it's emotion, it's nurturing, it's the mother, it's the protector, it's ancestry, it's all of the things related to what we understand can be kind of on the emotional, needy side, even the lower frequency. It's all of those things, right? So the way in which I will be moving toward that self-reliance, the way in which I will be exerting that independence would be in that more nurturing way. And I need to be giving myself more of that. The trick is this: when people have north node in Cancer, they tend to be more in their south node of Capricorn, which is more in their thinking, building, doing, kind of grounding. And a person with a north node in Cancer anywhere is always being pushed to get more into the emotional aspects of whatever that house that it's in. But again, we're just sticking, I don't want to confuse you too much. So we're just really sticking with first house. Just know whatever the sign is, it's just telling the style. If you got Aries there, then you're going to be doing it in that more Aries way. Okay. If you have Sagittarius there, then going, if you're Sagittarius rising, the way of getting to that identity and getting to that independence is going to be with Sagittarian type of energy that it's wanting you to gain. But you're probably sitting more with Gemini energy because that's what sits across from Sagittarius. Okay. But again, to not confuse you, we're focusing on just the house itself. Now, what if it's the reverse, like me? Where for me, my north node is in the seventh house and my south node is in the first house. So if you are someone where whatever the signs are, you have north node in seventh and first node, south node in first house, is like the reverse. So what's happening there is you're being asked in this lifetime to do the opposite of what I just explained. You're being asked to build meaningful relationships and partnerships because your comfort zone, south node sitting in the first house, is self-reliance, independence, and doing it all by yourself. And so in this lifetime, the challenge is letting go of that selfish tendency. Ooh, how about that? And really focusing on collaboration. Okay. It also can be letting go of that emotional neediness and getting a bit more into the thinking brain for me because I'm a Cancer Capricorn. Okay. With that, Cancer's in my first, Capricorn's in my seventh. But if we're just, again, looking at just the houses themselves, then it really is about how do I get into more collaboration. And really where my learning is to learn more about compromise and then valuing others' needs. Okay. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. So what happens then with that, again, when my north node is in the seventh house, I'm really comfortable actually. So I'm comfortable with being self-reliant. Okay. I do that well. Independence. If you have south node in first house, do that well. You got that identity. It's asking you to let go of thinking about putting self always. I don't want to say, because we it's nothing wrong with putting self first, but doing it in a way that you're still allowing yourself collaboration and integration within relationship, and that you're really learning to compromise and to value where other people are at. Now, I think it can sometimes be tricky because when your south node is in the first house and you've got your rising also in the first house, right? So how you're driven and how you're motivated is whatever is sitting right there in the same house as the south node. It can be like, I know for me, it's like, this is confusing. You're telling me to let go of this, but this is also how I'm motivated. And I, for me, have had to really study this and really better understand the other parts of my chart so that I could understand, okay, what is this really trying to teach me? And so just understand you can't just look at the south and north node and decide, all right, I know my life's purpose. I know it. That's it. I'm done. No, it's a really big factor. It's a big key. It gives you a lot of insight and a very kind of gross understanding. Like, I know for me, relationships are just super important. They always have been, but I haven't always functioned in them the best. And so as I have gotten older, while I've craved the intimacy of it, I've craved wanting to be in connection, this also crave of sense of self is also so strong. And so I've had to really learn how to integrate and, maintain my independence while still being in relationship. And it's, I'm still working on it. I'm still really working on it. But when I did learn it, once I started really digging more into it, super, super helpful. So that if I find myself in situations where I'm doing too much by myself, or I'm just too reliant on just me, then I know, remember, what's that lesson? You're supposed to be learning how to compromise and call in and invite in other people to assist you, and because I have a Cancer South Node, that also I have to be very careful not to get too much in the low frequency of Cancer, which can be that neediness, emotional neediness, or that crab getting in the shell. And be willing to get more into the Capricorn building, setting goals, working together within partnerships. Okay, so look at your chart, see where if you got South Node or North Node in either the first or seventh house. If you're like, no, my North Node is in the eighth, my South is in the second, tune in next week because we're going to do the second house and the eighth house. And so just find where your north and south know. They're always across from each other. So if you don't see south, but you see north, know that south is sitting right across. See what house is in and make sure you're paying attention coming in each week when I talk about it. So if you don't have north node or south node in that first or seventh house, what I'm talking about is not necessarily pertaining specifically to you, but you're getting the gist of how this works, right? And so you want to place that. So when I get to that house, this is going to end up being a 6-week type of journey, then you're all ready. You're all ready. Now, don't wait and be like, well, I'll just wait till she gets there. No, because this is the cool thing about astrology. Astrology is so much like math in the sense that literally, in a lot of ways, because it's looking at degrees and, more of your geometry aspects and trigonometry aspects of math. But everything builds on everything. And so this is why I ask to become a subscriber and to go back and watch the videos, because as the thing is everybody has every sign, everybody has every house, everybody has a north and south node. The more you are learning in general, the more it's going to help you learn yours. And then if you are in partnership or have children or parents, or you want to be able to look at those people closest to you and better understand a little bit about them, and they share more about their placements or what have you, it can really, really help you put it all together. But if you only know one thing or two things, it can get very, very confusing. So this is why I really encourage you to just kind of keep locking in, even if you don't have the specific placement I'm talking about. If you are, if you look in the playlist, I go through every sign. Yes, obviously you want to go to whatever your sun or your moon or your rising and watch the videos on that, but make sure you're looking at everything because you have every sign in you. And it's just going to help you better. And this is the thing. When you start learning what the sign is and you start learning what house it's in. I did not do a series yet on the planets, and I need to do that. So because the planets are the who and they're very important. So that you can really, and I think it'd be more helpful understanding the planets through the houses. I think talking about things through the houses really snaps it. It helps you really, really understand a little bit more. But that's down the line. But for now, just tune in because again, we'll talk about, what are these life purposes depending on what house things are sitting in. And it can be super, super helpful as you're navigating challenges. One of the last things I'll say before I hop off here is wherever you're having your challenges or your barriers or your difficulties, okay, astrology is attempting to help you understand why that is. Because there's always a space that the soul is attempting for you to grow. All of us, every single one of us, we're all attempting to grow. And even growth doesn't equal working hard every day. That's not it. Life is going to naturally give you plenty of opportunities for growth. And so this series, I think, is super important because wherever that South Node is, it lets you know that's not necessarily a new lesson for you today. So if you just keep sitting in, for instance, South Node in 7th house, South Node meaning relationships and this over reliance in relationships. And you may say, well, no, I've got to stay in this relationship. I got to be on this board with this person. I got to be in this business with this. And I just have no time for me. Oh, well, that's just what it's got to be. But if we were to look at your chart and we see that the South Node is sitting over there in relationships and the North Node is in the 1st house, this gives you so much more confirmation and affirmation to go towards you and that you're not being selfish. In fact, you're attempting to learn how to grow in your self-independence and your self-discovery and your self-reliance. So that's how helpful and how strong this can really be. And so I'm just excited to keep talking about this through the houses. So again, North Node, South Node, 1st house, North Node, you're moving towards self-reliance. 1st house, South Node, you're trying to let go a little bit of those selfish tendencies, okay? And try to do everything by yourself. North Node, 7th house, you're attempting to learn how to be in more collaborations and relationships and partnerships. That's what the soul is wanting to expand and experience. South Node, 7th house, the soul is saying, we already mastered this, child. We know how to be in relationship. Let's learn how to really discover you and be more reliant on you. Okay? All right. Well, that is it, guys. Again, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you comment. Was this helpful? What? Share your thoughts. I ask that comments be appropriate and, constructive feedback, not otherwise. And make sure you share the video. And we'll be back again, and we'll go through South and North Node, 2nd and 8th house. All right, you guys take care. Have a wonderful self-care Sunday, and I'll see you soon.